Welcome back to the Friday Night 360 AZ preview show. I'm Jordan Ham alongside Haley Stasiak. We are now joined by Matt Johnson, Ironwood Ridge head football coach. Coach, thanks so much for joining us.
Not a problem, man. Excited to be here.
So you have had one of the more consistent programs in Southern Arizona in 3 of the last 4 years, at least 9 wins, along with an 8-win season in there. You won a state title in recent years as well. Just how have you been able to build up this Ironwood football program to be such a consistent program?
I've been pretty blessed. It was a playoff program before I came over, there was already an excellent foundation here, and then just a lot of support from parents, a lot of support from assistant coaches, and great kids. Obviously, you can't succeed without great kids that buy in and care about each other and care about the team.
You had to fill a big hole at quarterback this year. Octavio Audrey Cobos, he's stepped up pretty big for you. What have you seen out of him this year that's impressed you the most?
He's actually, this is his first year ever playing quarterback. We knew he could be a pretty good runner. He's had excellent touch on his passes, and he's just getting the job done. So he's done an excellent job. And as the season goes, this will be the 3rd game he's ever played at quarterback this week. As the season goes, we expect him just to keep getting better. And luckily, we're playing high levels of competition, so he's going to get tested every week and have to improve and grow. So it's been exciting, and the best is yet to come. And at the same time, we know with great playoff teams that we're playing, we know that there's an expectation that he's going to get tested and make mistakes and have to grow from it.
You've been around this program for a long time, around the Southern Arizona high school football scene. How have you seen that transform since taking over the Ironwood Ridge program?
I'd say Southern Arizona's gotten a little bit more competitive as a whole. You're seeing some more schools with good coaches and more buy-in from parents and players. I think, when I first started coaching, there was kind of 4 programs in town. It was Sunnyside, it was South Point, it was Sabino, and it was Amfi. And nowadays, you're just kind of seeing a little bit more of a spread where you've got a Tucson High that's been making the playoffs some years, and Cienega, of course, has grown up and become very good, and then Marana's on the rise, and Mountain View's on the rise again. So I'd say just the overall week-in, week-out competition has improved, which is another reason why we schedule playoff teams in the preseason, so that way or the pre-conference games, so that way once we get to conference, we're a little bit more battle-tested, so we're not surprised when we face a great Cienega team or, a great Marana team.
Speaking of that, this 5A Southern Division is pretty stacked in terms of competition this year. When you look at this as a whole, what are your thoughts just overall on this division?
Well, last year we finished 3rd in our region, and we were still a quarterfinalist. I expect us to if we make the growth we need to, regardless of wins and losses. We got a tough Camp Old Verde team, 3-0 Camp Old Verde team this week. Then we play Centennial the next week. If we make the improvements we need to make each week, I expect for us to be a playoff team again and a chance to advance in the playoffs, regardless of if we win our region or not. It's going to be real tough. There's definitely some quality teams, and I think it definitely gets us playoff ready. In the past, you'd see your region and you might see one team that was a playoff team, and it might not be the best quality of a playoff team. And nowadays, you're going to face at least out of 5 or 6 games, at least 3 of the games are going to be teams that are equal to a first-round playoff game. So you just get ready, and it's exciting. It's real football. There's no just games where you can sleep through and show up with the W.
In your eyes as head coach here of Ironwood Ridge, who are your players to watch for people who may not know a lot about Ironwood Ridge football?
I've got a pretty darn good receiver. He's a senior. He's a track kid as well. His name's Drew Cook, number 19. I'm not the best with numbers all the time, so I've got the stats. They kind of tell the tale already. My running back, the senior Nathan Grijalva, and then I've got some good senior DBs led by Kyle Nikolai, and he's our free safety, and he does an excellent job, and he's a senior as well. So it's mainly those guys, and you go to the stats pages and you can see those names, and it's pretty obvious which guys kind of find a way to make the plays.
Coach, we appreciate the time. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for covering high school football.
Of course. Good luck this Friday.
Thank you.
That was Ironwood Ridge head coach Matt Johnson. Pretty tough one here coming up against Campo Verde on Friday. Campo's, doing pretty well so far here in 2018. Senior running back Matt Leisure, and if I botched that name, I'm sorry, 560 rushing yards. And then they just kind of spread the ball all over to this receiving core. Senior quarterback Parker Newsman, he can just read those receivers. They've all got at least 30 receiving yards, so he spreads that ball out pretty well. Yeah,
and this was a team that was pretty solid last year and returned a lot of talent. So I think they're looking to make some noise in that 5A Santan division, which we've talked about before, is pretty stacked as well as the Southern Division. On the Ironwood Ridge side, as Coach said, Drew Cook. This is a guy I'm really looking at. I'm hoping to get out to that game. I'm going to be in that part of town, trying to hit a couple games this weekend because there's some really good games. With Drew Cook, 6 receptions, leading the team, 158 yards. That's a 26-yard average. So capable of the big plays, also brought in 3 touchdowns, has also been in the backfield a little bit. So seems like a pretty dynamic athlete that they have. So this will be a really fun game, I think. And again, kind of like an underrated game. Next couple weeks, though, for Ironwood Ridge, they got some tough games. They have at Campo Verde, hosting Centennial. And then a couple weeks from there, you have Marana. So, Centennial has kind of, I think, proven again that they're towards that top. If they aren't the top team, they're one of 2 potentially. But like he said, Ironwood Ridge likes to schedule tough. They toughen up, and then so for playoff time, they're ready to go. So this should be a really fun game, and it's also kind of a week where a lot of teams from Southern Arizona are coming up. You have Cienega coming up to Centennial. You have a lot of different teams, from that region coming up. So a lot of chances to see some teams that you might have to drive a little bit usually to go see.
Well, and we talked about that 5A Southern Division and just Tucson football as a whole. That's something last year that we talked a lot about too. The talent of high school caliber football that's in Tucson, and that just it seems like it keeps getting better every year.
And the recruiting profiles continue to get better. I was talking to Brandon Huffman last year, and he said that probably this past class, which featured Jamari Joyner, Mateo Mele, that was the class that was probably the most recruited that he could remember from Tucson. You now throw in Bijan Robinson, who's, he's a 2020 guy. You throw in Mario Padilla, Lathan Ransom, Terrell Hayward. Like, the schools are now making the trip down there as well to go check those guys out as well. So it's only going to improve if guys continue to get recruited that way.
Let's huddle up now. Where are we going this week? I know you mentioned that you're going to try to pop out to the Iron Ridge Campo Verde game. Where are you going to start the night?
Yeah, so I'll start at Hamilton.
Okay.
They are playing Tolleson. I want to check out Andre Johnson, the ASU commit, and see how Hamilton. I was there for their Week 0 game against Chaparral, a tough overtime loss. They just notched their first win against a very good Arborview team from Nevada. So I want to see kind of where they've grown over the past couple of weeks, because I feel like they are starting to make some progress. So going to start there, hopefully be able to get to that Ironwood Ridge and Campo Verde game.
I'm going out to Perry, Sandra Day O'Connor. I was there the first game that Chubba Purdy started at quarterback, or didn't start at quarterback.
He
made an appearance behind his brother at quarterback. It was the first game of 2017. So I'm excited to see how he's developed in this last year and just where this Perry team is at. I know Deshane James down, how they're adjusting there. And then Sandra Day O'Connor, I'm looking forward to seeing Braylon Trice. That's someone who you've talked a lot about and mentioned. So just this matchup as a whole, kind of seeing where Perry is at and kind of where Sandra Day O'Connor's at as well.
The Steve Casey defense for O'Connor
which is something we talked to him about earlier this season as well.
Yeah, they love to get after it. The front 7 is really good. They have quite a few guys that he's really excited about. But Braylon Trice sets the tone with them. And then you mentioned Deshane James being down, but Perry has a ton of athletes. Colby Dickey, I feel like people don't talk enough about that guy. He has played for multiple years, put up huge numbers. No matter who the quarterback is, no matter, when Brock Purdy was out and Deshane James was the quarterback, he was still putting up numbers. Kyle Patterson is another guy, a tight end. He just picked up his first Pac-12 offer from Oregon State. So those are a couple of guys to look out for, and they have 3 or 4 guys in that backfield as well.
Let's take a look at our social element for this week. Nogales Athletics tweeted this video. It's a hype video for their upcoming game on Friday night, week 3 action here. Check this out. They got all the graphics,
I love
little hype here.
that teams are doing this, and just
it's fun. It gets the guys excited,
and depending on the campus, a lot of times this can be student produced. So they're
a lot of them, I believe, are student produced.
yeah. So it's a lot of students showing their creativity, rallying around, getting some school spirit going. If it's coaches, awesome as well. I know that there are plenty of assistant coaches that have those backgrounds as well. So, but yeah, just show a little flavor of your team. Like it's really, as long as you're focused on you guys, it's pretty cool. As long as you're not calling out anybody else, I don't see how there can be a negative.
And this is Nogales taking on Rio Rico on Friday night in week 3 action here. Cool stuff there. Let's move into your high school football question of the week. What do you got?
That has very little to do
with high school
football. This week's question was, who in this fictional high school that you are a part of, who do you want your notable alumni to be? And we limited it to 3.
Okay. I have some.
Haley?
Well, I want to hear what everyone else had to say first.
Okay. So we'll start off. Got a pretty good response.
Some of them I saw, and I was like, I totally agree with this.
Yep. Trace Carroll, assistant coach over at Mountain Point. He said Black Panther. Coach Boone, which was Denzel Washington's character from Remember the Titans, it would be named Coach Boone Stadium. And Michael Scott from The Office.
Oh, okay.
As he put it, the world's best paper salesman. Brian Ham, my older brother, very creatively said Tim Riggins, Timothy Riggins, and Riggins, Tim. So we can have.
I like that one.
Tim Riggins grew a lot over Friday Night Lights. I think we can have different iterations of Tim Riggins.
He's keeping the theme of the football here a little bit.
I'm assuming this high school's in Texas as well. Jared Cohen, I think a few of you know him. Jonathan Moxon from Varsity Blues. Have you ever seen Varsity Blues?
I have not.
I think it's a little before your time. Benny the Jet from The Sandlot, and Henry Rowan Gardner from Rookie of the Year.
Okay.
So a lot of young talents. A lot of solid athletics. Cameron Cox, Channel 12, Bobby Boucher, Rocky, and Al, which was Christopher Lloyd's character from Angels in the Outfield. That was a curveball.
We've got a mix of athletes through here. I like it.
Yeah. Nick Frank, who is a reporter out in Little Rock, he also said Tim Riggins and Shane Falco.
There was a
Keanu
trend
Reeves.
of Tim Riggins there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was a lot of Friday Night Lights. Eric Sorensen, our executive producer and one of our fearless leaders. Tommy Callahan, Chris Farley's character from Tommy Boy. He would be fun in high school. Eric Taylor from Friday Night Lights.
Yes,
and then
loved
Jeremy
that one
Gray,
too.
Vince Vaughn's character from Wedding Crashers. Ralph Amsden. I was expecting big things from Ralph. And he had
Did he let you down?
He had a very sweet message, but it so let me down. He just said, "This is hard, but I wouldn't trade who I went to high school with." And it was like, that's great, but what pop culture people? Ralph, come on. This is your lane. Catherine Fitzgerald, a regular in this segment.
Always gives us the laughs.
Rasheed Wallace, Matilda, and Reggie Rocket from Rocket Power.
Matilda.
Reggie Rocket, when I saw that one, I was like, blast from the past. 2 more here. Kira Geitman, who actually works in the mayor's office in San Francisco. David Hasselhoff. She just needed one, and it was the Hoff. And then Jose Bosch, media savant for Phoenix Rising. Michael Scott, Leslie Knope, and Amy Santiago from Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
We know what he likes, what kind of TV he likes.
His tastes. So mine were Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters. He actually dropped out of high school, so he'll actually go to this high school. He's still eligible. Kate McKinnon. No one makes me laugh quite like Kate McKinnon's weirdness, and I feel like that weirdness would be amplified in high school. So I feel like we would be friends. And then Richard Splett from Veep. He is a fan favorite on that show. and just. Again, I want to see what Richard Splett was like in high school, where he's the whatever you were, it was kind of amplified in high school, and he's a nerd. So I want to see like the super nerdiness of Richard Splett. So that's this week. Again, another really strong week. So for this upcoming week's question, I like food.
I have to give my.
Oh yeah.
Alumni. Well, I mean. They're not as exciting now that we've gone through this whole list.
That's why I wanted to lead with you, Haley.
I mean, okay, well, Reese Witherspoon, because I just love Reese Witherspoon, all aspects of life.
You've wrapped that up.
Blake Lively, because I just think her and I would get along so well.
Okay.
And Dabo Sweeney, Clemson head coach, because I've tweeted before. I think I need him as a life coach because he's just.
Can you imagine Dabo Sweeney in high school at a high school dance? That guy can move.
No, but like imagine the talks he would give when he comes back to the high school because he's that notable alumni.
Right.
Fire up.
I'm saying that guy can move. So this week's question. If you don't know me, you know I like food. We haven't talked about food yet, and that's huge in the high school football experience. So your fictional high school, what's going to be the menu item of the day? Like the featured item. I know some high schools have kind of unique takes.
Like in the cafeteria?
In the snack bar at the games.
Oh, okay. Concessions.
So, yeah, can be a concession, can be catered in. Let's talk some food, guys. Let's have some fun. I'm going to get really hungry next Wednesday. It'll be great.
Make sure you tweet Jordan with the Friday Night 360 AZ hashtag. Be sure to check out Eric's Zone Read on Thursdays on sports360az.com. You can find us on demand as well later in the day. Catch us at 11 on Wednesdays live. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time on the Friday Night 360 AZ Preview Show.